Hello, this is Dr. Jacqueline with DTP-Leadership Group. You've tuned in to Hot Topic Bold Talk, the podcast where we dive into everything that matters today. Join me as we explore the hottest trends and pressing issues with conversations that sizzle and perspectives that heat up. This is Hot Topic Bold Talk, since every chat has something cooking. Let's dive in to today's discussion. Hello, my name is Dr. Jacqueline, and I'm with DTP-Leadership Group. This is Hot Topic Bold Talk. My podcast this evening is 95, and I've titled it A New Dawn, Kamala Harris and a Path to American Renewal. My introduction is a vision for hope, because I think it was amazing to be in the presence of a convention where it was exciting, it was hopeful, and it had great speakers that were very clear about what their message was. So last week at the Democratic Party convention, we saw a different vision for America, or for Americans, us. We moved from the hatred, anger, and darkness of the Trump Party to excitement, joy, and a focus on human rights and freedoms that all us Americans deserve, that were described by the Democratic Party at their convention. In the Atlantic article, Completely Typical, by Tom Nichols on Friday, August 23rd, 2024 at 5:28 a.m., he described the difference of the environment of the Democrats and the Trump Party. Now, I'm not going to give you all the references anymore, but I thought Tom did some very interesting things about describing the convention. Since all my references are going to be at the end of the podcast. This week, the Democrats did something that seems unusual, but was really a revision to normalcy. They coalesced around a nominee. They made up upbeat speeches about how great things would be when their nominee was elected. They trotted out some celebrities to affirm that the nominee was great, but also cooks. And then they dropped the balloons and wrapped things up. That's all the convention is supposed to do. The Republican gathering this year, however, was the ultimate expression of political convention as a creepy cult meeting. The Democrats seemed happy. Republicans seemed angry, and this was because they found out that their entire strategy was aimed at a candidate, Joe Biden, who was about to drop out. The NRC was like a year party where all your weirdest neighbors gather around the grill pit and talk in really loud voices about how much they hate everyone else on the block. The Democrats had a normal lineup of former leaders, including President Clinton and Obama. The GOP, a party that could have drawn on several former candidate secretaries and one other living former president, had almost none of their most prominent former elected officials in attendance. Instead, the Republican delegates watched Hulk Hogan tear his shirt off as the prelude to the nominee giving a long, dull, self-pitying version of his usual rally speech. A few Republicans, such as former Representative Adam Kinzinger, did give a very good convention speech this year, but they gave it at the Democratic convention. So I think we see a big difference because Trump has moved so many people out of what used to be the Republican Party. I'm glad the Democrats have returned to the old time religion when it comes to conventions, he says. They're supposed to be big events where the party puts on its best fact and reminds Americans that the participatory democracy is a wonderful thing. Something silly, sometimes serious, and sometimes awesome. So if you are exhausted from Trump's hateful and racist comments, degrading our country and lying that we are better off when he was president, then you need to spend a lot of time studying what happened at the Democratic convention. That shows us what U.S. democracy is all about. Again, I want to ask you to go back and listen to my podcast that describe the narcissism of Trump and the damage that the religious fanatics like Christian nationalists and Pentecostals who have control of the Trump party have done so far. I will provide another podcast about Project 2020 because we all need to understand more or less what are all the topics in there. Trump has tried over and over again to separate himself from Project 2025. However, when he says to his supporters that they will only have to vote this time and then he will take care of things, he's talking about Project 2025. And please know that Project 2025 is very important to know about. Liars do not back off from what they say, so know that Trump will do everything he has said and more. None of us that are not his supporters will have freedom to vote or live the way we want to, since the religious fanatics will define what is Christian, and Trump and his cohorts will continue to use gerrymandering to take away the right to vote. We will have a national abortion ban. His discrimination against groups is massive. It's against women, LGBTQ plus, any race that's not white, and he will be the dictator that the religious fanatics want him to be. We were reminded each night of the Democratic Convention the many things that we have done to establish a democracy that is totally different from what Trump is offering. And I've read many times and shared the information about the suffragettes and all the things they went through to get women the right to vote. I spent the 1960s fighting for the right for women to decide about their own bodies and about their reproductive rights and have the medical care that they need. I just recently read something that Arkansas is so proud of the fact that there's pro-life, and yet there are more women dying in Arkansas than any other state. And I will provide more information about that in another podcast. I feel right to determine what medical treatment and advice a woman should receive. I feel appalled at Vance making disdainful remarks about IVF and other Trumpers thinking they should decide how a couple can have a family. Who in their right mind thinks they can decide what all the rest of us should do to form our families and how we can live with the people we love? Let's turn to the light of the Democratic Party and see what all is possible for you as an American citizen. Know that it's important to hear again the valuable statements from many people from the Democratic Convention, since we need to feel and experience the difference in what the Democrats, with their independent and Republican friends who are not supporters of Trump, want for America. And that's the only way we can truly understand what's going on, is to be emotionally connected to what it is. I want to talk about charting a new path forward. Let's go to the Time magazine article. and it is by Brian Bennett, and he's done a great job, and you'll have that information. As Vice President Kamala Harris walked onto the stage to accept the nomination for president, you could see in the audience thousands of women wearing white in honor of Americans who fought for our right to vote. Now, the sea of suffragettes fabric in front of Harris, he says, served as a visible reminder of the historic possibility a Black woman of South Asian descent with an odds-on chance to be the American president. Harris started off by acknowledging the improbability of the moment. She said, "But I'm no stranger to unlikely journeys." Her path through life, going from being the daughter of two immigrant students who fell in love at a civil rights gathering, to being elected to the U.S. Senate and then becoming vice president, as a story that could only be written in the greatest nation in the earth, she said. In a 40-minute speech, Harris described the lessons she learned from her parents and made a forceful case against Donald Trump, promising a, quote, a chance to chart a new way forward. She called Trump an unserious man who brought chaos and calamity to the White House once before, and when he lost the 2020 election, tried to throw away your votes by encouraging a mob to storm the U.S. Capitol. As President Harris said, she would work to bring the country together, to create jobs, lower costs, and create an opportunity economy. The next section of the article is titled "A President for All Americans." As she accepted the nomination, Harris made a direct appeal to Republicans disillusioned by former President Donald Trump and undecided voters, vowing to be a president for all Americans. "I know there are people of various political views watching tonight," she said. "I want you to know I promise to be a president for all Americans." Harris added, drawing a contrast to Trump, "You can't always trust me. You can always trust me. You can always trust me to put country above party and self," which he definitely does not do. "My entire career," she says, "I've only had one client, the people." A nod to her background on behalf of every American, regardless of the party, race, gender, or the language your grandmother speaks. On behalf of my mother and everyone who has ever set out on their own unlikely journey, on behalf of Americans like the people I grew up with. People who work hard, chase their dreams, and look out for one another. On behalf of everyone whose story could only be written in the greatest nation on earth. She then accepted the nomination for the president of the United States for the Democratic Party. She gave a very clear message about working to end the Israeli-Hamas war. She said, "Let us be clear." Addressing one of the most controversial topics looming over the convention, "I will always stand up for Israel's right to defend itself, and I will always ensure Israel has the ability to defend itself, because the people of Israel must never again face the war that terrorist organizations call Hamas caused on October 7th, including an unthinkable sexual violence and the massacre of young people at a music festival." At the same time, what has happened in Gaza, she said, over the past 10 months is devastating. President Biden and I are working to end this war such that Israel is secure. Israel is secure. The hostages are released. The suffering in Gaza ends, and the Palestinian people can realize their right to destiny, security, freedom, and self-determination. There are many things she pointed out about Trump. However, this is a comment that I think I greatly appreciate. And I think it describes her, and I think it was well said. And how he would use the immense power of the United States, not to improve your life, not to strengthen our national security, but to serve the only client he's ever had, which is himself. Now I want to look at the opportunity economy and building a stronger America. Harris said she would work to bring workers, small business owners, entrepreneurs, and American companies together to create jobs and grow the economy. She said she would work to lower the cost of health care, housing, and groceries. As part of her economic plan, Harris has previously promised to block companies from taking advantage of crisis to raise prices. She also promised to end the country's housing shortage and protect Social Security and Medicare payments from cuts. Then she went into abortion and women's reproductive rights. Harris outlined several ways that Trump and his allies would restrict women's reproductive rights. She claimed that they would limit access to birth control, ban medication abortion, enact nationwide abortion ban, force states to report on women's miscarriages and abortions with or without Congress, and create a national anti-abortion coordinator. Simply put, she said, they are out of their minds. Now let's look at some of the other topics that were covered. Harris made it clear that she, quote, refused to play politics with our security. And here is my pledge to you. As president, I will bring back the bipartisan security bill that he, better known as Trump, killed, and I will sign it into law. Harris said, I know we can live up to our proud heritage as a nation of immigrants and reform our broken immigration system. We can create an earned pathway to citizenship and secure our borders. Her foreign policy is clear as well. She will support the Ukrainian president, Zelensky, and as president, she said she would continue to stand strong with Ukraine and the North Atlantic Treaty Organization alliance, and ensure America always has the strongest, most lethal fighting force in the world. In the next article, which I will use, it's from CNN, but I want to take something from it too, because I think it fits here with her foreign policy. It's also a quote. Harris also delved deeply into her own policy positions, particularly on foreign affairs policy. She said she'd be a president who is realistic, practical, and has common sense, a clear rebuttal to Trump's efforts to brand her as a liberal. Now, in the CNN article, there are 3 authors to it. That quote is from there. But here are some others that I think are important. Here's some comments that they had. In the enduring struggle between democracy and tyranny, I know where I stand, she said. And I know where the United States belongs, she said. And in the section on Harris's offers a return to pre-Trump normalcy, I also find that she does some other things. The Harris campaign has also talked about freedom over and over again, seeking to reframe issues as reproductive rights as a question of government interference. One of the most striking testimonies came from Courtney Baldwin, a young organizer and human traffic survivor, who spoke of how Harris worked to shut down the website that traffickers use to force her and others into sex work. Baldwin said, she's protected people like me her whole life. Now, the poignant sharings from the people affected by gun violence was extremely powerful, since it is impossible to deny emotionally laden and truthful stories about the gun violence impacts on their families. I felt amazed when I saw Arizona Representative Gabby Giffords spoke after surviving a shooting at a campaign event in 2011. I remember following her story and asking prayers for her, because I was amazed when I saw that she could walk and speak. So it's been a very trying experience for her. I think the stories of the Central Park Five members also, who said Trump wanted us dead. Trump's efforts to have these men die was clear in his ads at the time. Bring back the death penalty. Bring back our police. The ads read in huge type. These boys were later exonerated. And Yusuf Salamt, who is now a New York City council member, said Trump wanted us dead. The Washington Post on August 23rd has a fascinating story by Robertson that talks about how Harris plants her flag in Chicago. The future is now. The chants were constant about we are not going back throughout the convention. In Robertson article, he has a significant statement about Harris. And I want to read it to you because I think it's so important. Harris is the embodiment of the nation's diversity, complexity, and multiculturalism. She is a mirror reflecting not America's future, but its present. And Republican Ruben Gallego from Arizona, a Marine Corps veteran who fought in Iraq, brought onto the stage all the Democratic members of Congress who have served in the military. It was a gaudy display, as was written, of unapologetic, unalloyed, flag-waving patriotism. And so I want you to say that I think Ruben did an excellent job in bringing that to the front of our ideas. I support Harris that at last the end of the Trump era is in sight. It is great to have a party convention when we celebrate our country, our democracy, and all the diverse people that make up the United States of America. So in conclusion, I want to end it this way. I am calling you to action for America's future. Kamala Harris represents a departure from the chaos and divisiveness that have plagued our nation in recent years. Her vision of an inclusive, democratic America stands in stark contrast to the dark, self-serving agenda of Donald Trump. Harris's commitment to unity, economic opportunity, and human rights offers us a chance to reclaim the values that make our nation great. As we move toward the upcoming election, it is crucial for every American to recognize the profound choice before us. We can either continue the path of division and fear, or embrace a future of hope, equality, and progress under Kamala Harris's leadership. The time to act is now. Let us all move from darkness to light and move to joy, supporting a real candidate who embodies the best of America. Thank you for listening. There you have it. Another episode of Hot Topic Bold Talk is in the books. We journey through today's discussion, uncovering diverse perspectives and shedding light on a very critical matter. A massive thanks to all of you that are my listeners. I really appreciate you, and I'm so glad you're a part of this adventure. Feel free to drop your views in the polls and the Q&A section. It's really important for me to hear from you and know how you feel or what you think about my podcast. Gear up for more intriguing discussions in our next episode. Until then, stay connected, stay engaged, and let's keep those conversations buzzing. Thank you.